Today, it's all about international contemporary art. We've got some fascinating excerpts from a text on the topic.
Oh, this is going to be good. Contemporary art really pushes the boundaries, you know? It's not just about, like, pretty pictures.
Definitely. From what I've skimmed through, it's going to be a wild ride. Formaldehyde sharks, mind-bending performances, sculptures that make you question reality.
It really goes deep. These artists are wrestling with big questions about life, death, identity, even our relationship with the planet.
Heavy stuff. Well, to kick things off, let's talk Damien Hirst. He's kind of hard to miss, isn't he?
Oh yeah, Hirst is a big name in conceptual art. He uses everyday stuff, sometimes even animals, to give us thinking about, well, our own existence.
And I guess you can't talk about Hirst without mentioning the physical impossibility of death in the mind of someone living. That shark in formaldehyde, it's iconic. Have you seen it in person?
I have. And photos don't do it justice. It's just this huge creature frozen in time. It's awe-inspiring, but also kind of scary. Makes you think about your own mortality, you know?
It's interesting you mentioned the physical presence of the shark. Do you think Hirst wanted that scale, that presence, to make the piece even more powerful?
Totally. Hirst is very deliberate. The size of the shark, the dank, the formaldehyde itself, they all add to the feeling. It's not just what you see, but what you feel when you're standing there.
He definitely makes a statement, that's for sure. But it's not all shock value, is it? He explores these themes of death and decay in other pieces too, like Mother and Child Divided. There's some real depth there.
Absolutely. That's why his art resonates with people. He doesn't shy away from the tough topics. Mortality, the fragility of life. He makes us confront those anxieties.
It seems like he's always playing with our expectations of what art should be, using found objects like the Dadaists and Surrealists did, challenging traditional art forms.
Totally. He's part of that lineage, disrupting the status quo. But there's a philosophical side to his work, too. He was influenced by Heidegger, the existentialist philosopher.
Wow, that's fascinating, seeing those philosophical ideas in such a visual, sometimes even shocking way. Now, for something completely different, let's go to South Korea and talk about Kim Sooja. Equally thought-provoking, but in a very different way. Performance, film, photography, installation, she does it all. What stood out to you about her work?
The Batari. You know those traditional Korean bundles used to carry stuff? She uses them in her art, turns them into these metaphors for our connection to the world, the burdens we carry.
I love that. And she uses traditional needlework and cloth, too, referencing her Korean heritage. But I read she doesn't like being called a feminist artist. Given the materials she uses, that seems interesting.
Yeah, it's more than that. I mean, her work definitely touches on the female experience, but she wants to go beyond gender, tap into something universal, the act of stitching, mending, carrying those burdens. We all experience that.
Right. There's a real minimalist quality to her performances, too, like Beggar Woman, Times Square. She sits on the pavement, blends into the city. It's not your typical performance. What's going on there?
She's turning things around. She's not performing for us, not in the traditional sense. She's inviting us to observe, to think about what it means to be human in this crazy urban world.
Makes you slow down, notice things you normally miss. It reminds me of Needle Woman. She stands motionless all over the world, and we see how people react to her. It's like this social experiment.
It is. Needlewoman makes you question what a performance even is. Is it just movement? Or is it something more? It blurs the lines between art and everyday life.
And then there's a Laundry Woman, washing items from a crematory in a river, connecting life and death with this simple act of cleaning. It's powerful.
She's layering meanings, taking something ordinary, like sewing or washing, and turning it into art, connecting us to, well, our shared humanity.
Okay, time for a bit of a shift in gears. Let's talk Vanessa Beecroft. Her work with nude and semi-nude models, it can be pretty controversial, can it?
Yeah, and she's not afraid to provoke. She's challenging us, making us confront uncomfortable things about power, voyeurism, and how women's bodies are objectified.
I read that she references those old European masters like Renaissance paintings, but with a modern twist.
Definitely. But she's not simply copying the past. She's using it to comment on the present, to critique how those old power structures, the ways women were represented, still affect us today.
Her piece VB01, where the models are the artwork, seems to challenge the traditional artist-model power dynamic.
Right. It flips the script. Who has the power here? It makes us think about the models, their agency, and even our own role as viewers.
VB25 is interesting, too, with the models in black wigs and turtlenecks. It's like she's creating a living painting.
Exactly. She's really good at using space, composition, lighting to create a specific mood. She plays with our ideas about beauty, uniformity.
But VB45 is different, darker. Those black boots, like a Gestapo uniform, a reminder of power and control.
You're right. VB45 is a much more in-your-face piece. Those boots add a historical layer you can't ignore. Power, oppression, it's all there.
And then VB48 with the black models painted black. It's a statement about how black bodies have been fetishized, commodified.
She's drawing on Caravaggio, that dramatic lighting. But the subject matter is, well, it's meant to be provocative. Racism, colonialism, she forces us to confront those legacies.
Beecroft's work isn't for everyone. She makes us think critically.
Absolutely. It reminds us that art can be a tool for social commentary, holding a mirror up to society.
So we've gone from Hirst's shark to Sooja's subtle performances to Beecroft's controversial tableau. What a journey.
And we're just getting started.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive where we explore the works of Joseph Beuys, Marina Abramović, Robert Smithson, and Joseph Kosuth. Welcome back. Last time we were talking about Vanessa Beecroft, and her work definitely got people talking.
It did. Which, I think that's the mark of truly impactful art. Gets under your skin a bit.
Totally, like she's holding up this mirror to society, makes you see all the contradictions, the messiness. And speaking of artists who reflect on the human condition, Joseph Beuys, he took it to another level, didn't he? Humanism, sociology, even anthropology, all in his work.
Beuys was something else, not just a visual artist, but performance, sculpture, activism. For him, art wasn't just like making pretty things. It was about changing the world, healing.
I read about his idea of social sculpture, art that can actually shape society, promote healing. It's a big idea. Why do you think his work still resonates with people today?
It's that belief that anyone can be an artist, and that art can be this force for good. He wasn't interested in art that was just pretty to look at. He wanted to tackle real issues, make people think.
His performance with the coyote, I Like America and America Likes Me, spending a week in a gallery with a wild animal, it's intense. What was he trying to say with that?
It was symbolic, definitely. Think about the context. 1974, after Vietnam, Beuys was German, and he saw the coyote as this symbol of America, this wildness. Sharing that space, it was about, bridging those cultural divides, starting a conversation.
Reconciliation, healing, all through this interaction with an animal. I also noticed he used materials like felt and fat a lot. They seem to have a deeper meaning, right? Not just random choices.
Right. He wasn't just picking materials out of a hat. Felt was warmth, protection, insulation. Fat was energy, change, even healing. He added those layers of meaning,
The end of the 20th century, that one really stayed with me. Basalt stones, these cavities filled with clay and felt. It was like a reflection on where we are as a culture, the weight of time.
Yeah, heavy piece. Those stones, volcanic eruptions, they suggest this vast scale of time, like we're just a blip. And the cavities filled with those materials, wounds and healing all at once. So open to interpretation.
And Beuys was an environmental activist too, so I connect that piece to his concern for the planet. 7,000 oaks, planting all those trees, art as activism.
Exactly. For him, it was all connected. He wanted to raise awareness about the environment. 7,000 oaks wasn't just art. It was real action, trying to make a difference.
Blurring the lines between art and life. Okay, let's switch gears again. Marina Abramović, another performance artist who pushes the boundaries in a totally different way, testing the limits of endurance, expression.
Abramović, oh yeah, she's incredible. She really goes there. Exploring the limits of the human body, the mind. Pushing herself to the edge, physically, emotionally.
I've seen some of her performances. They're intense. Even just watching them. Can't imagine experiencing it in person.
It's about endurance, pain, being vulnerable. She creates these visceral experiences. Challenging, but also transformative. For her and for the audience.
The Artist is Present is probably her most famous piece. Can you describe it for those who haven't seen it?
Picture this, Abramović sitting in a chair for 3 months, 8 hours a day, at MoMA. People could sit opposite her, just look into her eyes, silence, no words, no movement, just that intense connection.
Wow. It sounds so simple, but powerful. What made that piece so impactful? People had these, emotional breakthroughs just from sitting there with her.
It goes to the heart of being human, doesn't it? The need for connection, being seen. In this world full of noise, she created this space of pure encounter. It was radical.
And the way she uses time, that prolonged stillness, that gaze, it must have felt like time was distorted, almost disappearing.
She creates those states of awareness, for sure. And it's not just time, it's energy, too. She talks about, a magnetic field that forms between people when they truly connect.
I remember reading about 7 Easy Pieces, reperforming these iconic performance pieces from the past. Was that a way of, paying homage to the history of performance art?
Yeah, in a way. But it was also about, raising questions about what it means to embody someone else's work. Authenticity, the ephemeral nature of performance itself. Can you really capture the essence of something that already happened? Or is it always a new interpretation?
That's interesting how we experience art, especially performance. It's so tied to the moment, isn't it? And documentation can only capture so much.
Exactly. Photos, videos, They're important, but they can't replicate the live experience. But they do allow those works to live on in a way, keep the conversation going.
Okay, we've been talking about artists who work mostly in galleries, museums. Let's go outside now. Robert Smithson, land art. Art that interacts with the environment changes it.
Monumental scale, but also connected to nature. Smithson challenged the idea of art as this precious object in a gallery. His earthworks, they're exposed to the elements, time, weather. He embraced that impermanence.
He started with installation, using mirrors, playing with reflections, creating illusions. What was he exploring with that?
Perception, illusion, how our view changes depending on, where we're standing. Those early works were a stepping stone to his land art, that interplay between art and the environment.
And then there's Spiral Jetty. That image is just iconic. This massive spiral made of rock and earth going out into the Great Salt Lake. It's like a message from another time.
Spiral Jetty it's a masterpiece, a huge sculpture, but it's part of the landscape. And the lake, the water level changes. Sometimes the jetty is submerged, sometimes it's visible. Smithson loved that, the constant change, creation, and destruction.
Art doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of the world. And it makes you think about how we experience land art. Do you have to be there to really get it?
That's a good question. Documentation is important, but it's only a glimpse. Being there, feeling the scale, the light, the wind, that's something else entirely.
Makes me want to go see some of these land art pieces for myself. Okay, last one for today. Joseph Kosuth. He takes a very different approach, stripping art down to the bare essentials.
Kosuth, a key figure in conceptual art. It's the idea that matters, not the physical object. It's about engaging with concepts, challenging the viewer to think, question everything.
You use language and text a lot, right? Seems pretty different from like painting or sculpture.
It was a big shift, but it fit the times. The 60s, the 70s, lots of experimentation, pushing boundaries, not just in art, but in society too.
His piece, 1 and 3 Chairs, is a perfect example. So simple. A chair, a photo of the chair, a dictionary definition. Makes you think about how we define reality, what's real.
Right. He's playing with how we understand representation. Object, image, language. Which one is the most real? Or are they all just different ways of understanding the same idea?
It challenges the idea of originality, too. Like, the idea is what matters, not the object. And by using text, he emphasizes how important language is, how it shapes our view of the world.
Exactly. Kosuth was really into philosophy, linguistics, especially Wittgenstein. He was fascinated by how language creates meaning, and how that meaning can change depending on the context.
It's amazing how Kosuth takes something ordinary, a chair, a word, and turns it into this profound statement about art and reality.
That's conceptual art for you, making us think deeper, beyond the surface.
His piece, Zero Knot, that one's interesting too. The Freudian text covered up with black tape. It's like a visual representation of repression, maybe?
It is. It's about memory, history, how even when we try to erase something, it's still there under the surface, shaping us. And the tape, it doesn't really hide the text. It draws more attention to it. Like, you can't really escape the past.
Yeah. It makes you wonder how people react to that piece. Do they try to read the words through the tape? Or is it more about like the overall visual impact?
I think it's both. You're drawn to the hidden words, but the fact that they're covered up, silenced, that's important too. It's about power, who controls the narrative.
And the gallery space itself becomes part of the artwork too. Kosuth often used the architecture to add another layer of meaning, didn't he?
He did. The context where you see the art, it matters. It's not just a blank slate. The gallery itself can influence how you experience the work.
So we've gone from Hirst's shocking shark to Abramović's intense performances to Kosuth's mind-bending text pieces. What a range. Any key takeaways for our listener before we wrap up? What should they keep in mind as they explore contemporary art?
Be open to it. Let it challenge you. These artists, they're pushing boundaries, asking tough questions. They're not afraid to make us uncomfortable, to make us think about the world in a different way.
It's not just about, aesthetics. It's about experiencing art, thinking about it, feeling it.
Exactly. And remembering that art is a product of its time. History, politics, social movements, all of that influences the art being made.
So what does contemporary art tell us about the world right now? What's the message?
Well, it's clear that artists are engaging with the big issues. Climate change, social justice, the impact of technology, the search for meaning in a world that's changing so fast. They offer a different perspective, a way of looking at these challenges and imagining new possibilities.
They're not just reflecting the world, they're trying to change it.
Exactly. And that's the power of art, to inspire, to heal, to connect us in ways that nothing else can.